Darksiders 4 is on the horizon. Maybe possibly. And with its release in the near future, hopefully, we can finally ask ourselves the big questions. If your first big question is, what is Darksiders? Well, Darksiders is a series of fun-to-play, dark fantasy action-adventure games with a strong focus on combat and exploration. In each of the games, you play as a different horseman of the apocalypse, from war to death to fury, and finally to strife. Each horseman has their own combat niche, along with specialized skills and abilities, which begs the question, which horseman is top dog? It's the same as asking which Ninja Turtle dog walks the rest in a fight. Some of you may have a bone to pick with all these dog-based similes, but come on, we all know it's Raphael, no diff. Thankfully, my job today is easy since the creators behind the Horsemen seem to know the exact pecking order between the four, as their depictions are fairly consistent between the games, books, and comics, even if their appearances aren't. These are the four horsemen meant to lead the world into the apocalypse. These heralds of the end times are four of the most powerful beings in the universe. Each are capable of dismantling angels, demons, and even ancient beings that predate creation, like it's nothing at all. Now let's get into it, starting with number 4. Likely the weakest of the four, Strife is a trickster to a T. He is the Loki of this series, though a little less misguided. Instead of terrorizing his siblings like Loki, Strife focuses that antagonism on the Charred Council and their shady dealings. Before his in-game debut, he was always paired with Fury in the comics and novels. They seem to be presented around the same level power-wise, and working together in some capacity in each appearance, particularly in Abomination Vault. In a competition between them, I give Fury the edge due to her fighting prowess and willingness to jump into the front lines even against a rampaging war, while Strife is often depicted as avoiding combat or preferring the stealthy approach. Neither seem quite as durable as their brothers War and Death. Death's magic and overall arcane knowledge seems to put him above them as well, at least according to Abomination Vault. In the Darksiders comics, when War is lashing out in a berserker rage, Strife doesn't jump into the fight until Fury and Death have already subdued War. He does imply that his guns are capable of killing War. The takeaway is that Strife is not as physically imposing as War, but does have the means to take him out in a fight with his guns. In Abomination Vault, Strife shows defiance towards Death by questioning him and interrupting Death's monologue when he is talking to all the horsemen. When Death finally commands Strife to shut up, he does so unequivocally, with no further challenges, which at the very least displays the respect that Strife has for his eldest sibling, but may also be a display of the fear that he has for him. Strife's fighting style seems to rely on keeping enemies far, far away, with a barrage of seemingly infinite bullets. And while playing Darksiders Genesis, players will notice that Strife's melee damage and HP was a fraction of War's total. What makes Strife dangerous is his cunning, along with the enchantments and elemental spells he casts from his gun. Strife is a trickster in every sense of the word, even employing enchanted traps rigged to explode on the battlefield, and attacking from multiple directions via a shadow clone conjured during battle. He also has the keenest eyes of all the horsemen, according to the possibly canon Darksiders board game Forbidden Land. His gear includes a pair of guns named Mercy and Redemption that his brothers may or may not have borrowed on occasion. We don't know if that's canon. The jury is out on that until Darksiders 4. He has multiple arcane ammo types that can cast strong elemental spells, and an even more powerful limit break spell once Strife charges them up through combat. Additionally, he uses twin daggers with great proficiency when forced to fight up close, but he's not a powerhouse by any means. Strife is a quick-footed and evasive fighter, but does hide some tremendous power such as his World Ender Arcane Blast. It's a move where Strife takes both of his guns and unleashes a beam of tremendous destruction that looks like Darksiders' own version of the legendary Kamehameha of Dragon Ball fame. On top of that, Strife also has a demonic transformation called Anarchy Form. In Anarchy Form, Strife seemingly merges with his firearms and unleashes powerful blasts with each armed cannon, while attacking anyone within melee range with his spiked tail. If this were a straight up RPG, all things considered, Strife's role would be Ranger. As you can see, Strife is very powerful, but this next sibling is arguably even more so. Fury brings every bit of her namesake to the battlefield, and with the way she fights and her constant lust for battle, you'd be forgiven if you thought her name was War. While Fury and her younger brother express similar levels of rage on the battlefield, War's rage is typically honed into a quiet stoicism that builds beneath the surface. Fury, however, is always angry, as portrayed in Darksiders 3. It's basically her superpower, and it fuels her strength. In other portrayals, such as Darksiders Forbidden Land, Fury's anger is toned down and she is far more level-headed, even more so than War and Strife, at least during that particular mission. In many ways, Fury seems almost like a hybrid of her eldest and youngest brothers. She is a strong melee fighter and has a mid to high level of arcane skill. However, she is neither as bulky and damage resistant as War, nor as magically adept as Death. War likely has her beat when it comes to strength as well, as he can easily lift cars over his head, and yet Fury nor Death were given that ability in their respective games. And while nimble with her whip dodge ability, Fury still finds herself not as nimble as her eldest brother Death, especially without the hollows, unique elemental abilities she acquires over the course of her adventure. Death can easily wall run and dodge attacks up to 3 times in a row, while Fury needs her hollows and whip to get around the environment freely. Fury's unique transformation, Havoc form, also lacks the power and presence of her brothers, and isn't even featured in any of the cutscenes. Fury is a powerful combatant in the grand scheme of things, able to single-handedly take out the 7 deadly sins, and is shown to react much faster than War in the Darksiders board game Forbidden Land, when she saves him from being attacked by an undead priest while he is still drawing his sword. She also helps Death subdue their brother War with her whip when he is raging uncontrollably. That said, she was jealous of her brothers for a reason. During that same fight with the Berserker War, Fury is easily overpowered by her younger brother and nearly killed when he knocks her down. It takes Death's intervention to prevent War from killing her, and in half of her depictions she's often sidelined or defeated by Death and War. In Abomination Vault, Death commands her and her brothers to stay back to protect them while he completes his mission, and Fury and Strife both comply with his orders, unlike War. Fury gleefully leaps into every battle with her mighty sword whip, Scorn, which is more bladed in Darksiders 3, and more of an energy construct described as a distant and unloved cousin of lightning in Darksiders the Abomination Vault as well as the comics. She is skilled in arcane use, typically applying it as an extension of her sword whip Scorn, and skillfully harnessing the power of the hollows with it. Her Havoc form is further enhanced by her arcane power. With Havoc form, she conjures 2 whips, each made of pure arcane energy, similar to her comic book and novel counterpart. If this were a straight up RPG, her role would be Spellblade, which is usually considered a hybrid class. Fury is extremely powerful and can solo missions even against the likes of the 7 deadly sins, but her next sibling is even more powerful. This may come as a surprise to many of you, as War is our original series protagonist who is the embodiment of freaking combat. But War is honestly outclassed by his elder brother Death in nearly all aspects except for pure physical strength. It reminds you that the Horsemen were given their names but weren't born as the literal personifications of the titles they now represent. But if they were, I guess it would still make sense, as the concept of death encompasses all, including war. But let's talk about that. War is a master combatant. He excels at it in every possible way. He is capable of using just about any weapon, whether it was crafted in heaven or in hell. And despite being a swordsman, he is also proficient in ranged weaponry of all types, including gigantic cannons, an angelic throwing star, a chained spear, a portal gun, and even his brother's pistol. War is also adept at combat-focused magic, his go-to spell being Blade Geyser, a multifaceted spell that protects War from danger while also damaging his foes with magic blades, which erupt from the ground all around War's body. War has honed this magic to such a degree that it's even second nature to him. Even when his powers are dramatically reduced or stripped, War can cast a less powerful variant with complete mastery. War is also surprisingly agile despite being the most imposing horseman of the 4. He can quickly dodge around enemy attacks and possesses the reflexes to counter nearly any blow struck from his enemies, even those from behind. War is also defensively responsible. It seems to be the only horseman that relies on his blocking skill to mitigate damage. The other horsemen have a greater tendency to avoid damage altogether, though that may be because they are far less bulky than their youngest brother. War and Fury are a pair, both carrying the same raw emotion into battle, though War grounds his rage beneath the surface of his stoicism until it reaches a breaking point and he goes berserk. War is known for his immensely destructive berserker rages, and the only one who can stop him when he's like this are his siblings, mainly Death. War brings his mighty Chaos Eater with him into each and every battle. It's a blade that thirsts for blood and carnage. The more death and destruction War causes, the more powerful the blade becomes, and War by extension, as mentioned by Strife in the Darksiders comic. But the blade does come with a downside. Indulging it too much can accelerate War's berserker rage, unless War masters it, as implied by the Darksiders comic. If this were a straight up RPG, his role would be tank, for his high HP, high damage, and solid damage output. One thing I did forget to actually put in this script is War's Chaos form is actually incredibly powerful as well, maybe up there with one of the most powerful transformations out of the 4. It makes him completely invulnerable, unlike the other ones. I believe it doesn't drain his chaos meter when he gets hit. He's just completely invulnerable, and he does a tremendous amount of damage when he's in this form, like maybe 3 or 4 times his normal damage. So I don't have a section for the chaos form for War like I do with the others, but I did want to mention it. And his weapon is I think the only weapon, maybe Death's is similar actually, but his weapon empowers his chaos form even further. His weapon encourages him to go into chaos form because it generates chaos energy, and it's like a vicious circle of him absorbing chaos energy, going chaos form, going back, absorbing that chaos energy, going to chaos form. All that said, even when stripped of his power, War is tremendously scrappy, resourceful, and brutal, earning his spot as the most fearsome fighter of the 4 horsemen. There is, however, one more sibling even more deadly than War himself. The eldest of the 4, and thus the most seasoned in nearly every aspect, which in turn makes him the most competent. We're talking about Death. So, spoilers ahead in 3, 2, 1, you've been warned. The Horsemen are all Nephilim, ancient beings that are half angel and half demon. In Abomination Vault, Death tells us that there are basically 2 generations of Nephilim, separated by age and experience. There are the newer Nephilim, like War, Strife, and Fury, the youngest. And then there are the firstborn Nephilim, like Death and his former brother Absalom, who are ancient even compared to the other horsemen. The difference in knowledge between these 2 generations is so vast that Death has likely forgotten more facts about the universe that his younger siblings have gleaned in their lifetimes. At least that would be true, but Death has shown that his mind is still sharp as a tack, even after eons of existence. And so while he does have a forgetful moment or two, he is still a well of knowledge. His main store of knowledge is of the arcane variety. Death is a master mage, his domain that of necromancy. He can control undead ghouls and crows and imbue them with elemental properties to burn his enemies, freeze them, or even rig them to explode. The ghouls have some degree of sentience and can even perform manual labor for Death, as seen when he instructed them to build him a house in Abomination Vault. As a combatant, Death is quick and relentless, and he freely uses his Reaper form in and out of combat, seemingly having more control over the form than his siblings. Death even uses it more freely when he needs to fly short distances, and often uses it to execute massive enemies. Death's iconic scythes are always at his side, and is really a single scythe called Harvester. Harvester is a shape-shifting scythe, able to take the forms of any other weapon Death can think of. In Darksiders 2, Death's scythe transforms into a combined form, as well as a variety of generic hammers, polearms, claws, and gauntlets augmented by Death during his adventure. While not nearly as strong as his brother, Death is still capable of insane feats of strength, including prying open the jaws of a gigantic leviathan, and he may be the most agile of all the 4 horsemen, though he may have some good competition with Strife in that area. In the comics, Death is shown to be the most bold and reckless of the 4 horsemen. When selecting their horses, Death jumped into a herd of oncoming stallions and aura farmed until despair showed him some goddamn respect. His siblings thought the crazy bastard had died. Additionally, when War was going absolutely berserk and nearly killed Fury, Death was forced to literally step in the way to save his little sister. War's blade pierced right through him, and Death barely reacted to the attack at all. He then went on to slice War's arm off, quenching his rampage entirely. Abomination Vault shows that his siblings possibly even fear death, but it also shows that death possesses the knowledge to craft weapons able to destroy entire worlds, and is also the only one in the universe with access to said weapons. In all media, Death is consistently described as the oldest and most powerful of the four horsemen. I was honestly surprised at this consistency, and how clear this point has been made. Normally you want to balance your action hero quartets, but Darksiders puts its phallic member on the table and says, "Here's the pecking order, you dweebs." I honestly can't be mad at it. So, if this were a straight up RPG, Death's role would be Assassin. Now, can all this change in Darksiders 4? Hell yeah. It's even possible that the balance of power between the four has already shifted. If you notice, I only cover the peak base power of each of the four horsemen. I haven't even mentioned the glow ups each of them got in their respective games. Canonically, Fury and War have likely had the biggest glow ups and could potentially rival Death. And we still don't know exactly what Strife was up to in those 100 years between the start and end of Darksiders 1. No telling what power up he's gained. Whatever the case, we'll have to wait until Darksiders 4 to know the true pecking order. And as we can all predict, the Horsemen will all likely be depowered somehow anyway, so there is that. Anyways, I'm curious, what do you guys think? Who do you think is the strongest of the four? And do you think it would even matter in Darksiders 4? And if you all like this and you want to see more Darksiders and Legacy of Kain videos, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel to see more. I also have a Patreon down below as well. Join there to support more content like this. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.